Ever met someone who made you feel instantly seen, valued, and completely at ease, like they got you within minutes? They smiled just the right amount, said exactly what you needed to hear, and somehow made the whole room orbit around them. You walked away thinking, wow, what a genuinely good person. But weeks, or maybe months later, something shifted. That same charm began to feel calculated. That warmth turned cold, and the person who once felt like a gift started to feel like a trap. This is the danger of charm. It doesn't announce itself as manipulation. It feels like magic until it doesn't. Charm is the perfect disguise, smooth, practiced, and unthreatening. It bypasses your logical defenses and goes straight for your emotions. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. The most charming person in the room is often the one most capable of harm. Not because they're loud or aggressive, but because they know exactly how to make you lower your guard. They don't need to force anything. You hand them the keys yourself. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on charm, exposing how something so beautiful can be weaponized into one of the most dangerous psychological tools of all. Charm is seductive because it speaks to something primal in all of us, the need to feel seen, special, and safe. When someone is charming, they mirror your emotions, say the right things, and make you feel like the center of the universe. Your brain lights up with validation. You feel chosen. And in that moment, reason takes a back seat. From an evolutionary standpoint, we're wired to respond to warmth and charisma. A charming person appears socially skilled, emotionally intelligent, and non-threatening. They signal safety and belonging. Two things our nervous systems are desperate to secure. Add in a bit of physical attractiveness or confidence, and our defenses crumble almost automatically. But here's the trick. Charm isn't connection, it's performance, and often it's strategic. A practiced charmer knows exactly how to elicit trust before it's earned. They create fast intimacy, making you feel bonded before any real foundation is built. It feels like a shortcut to closeness, but what it really bypasses is your intuition. We fall for charmers because they give us something we deeply crave, but craving isn't clarity, and in the rush of that emotional high, we often miss the warning signs until it's too late. Charm and authentic connection may feel similar on the surface, but psychologically, they couldn't be more different. Charm is curated, it's controlled, it's designed to influence how others perceive you. Authentic connection, on the other hand, is messy, imperfect, and rooted in vulnerability. The charmer reads the room and adapts like a shapeshifter. They know how to mirror your tone, your values, your humor. It feels like compatibility, but it's often calculation. You're not connecting with their real self. You're bonding with a well-crafted projection. Charm prioritizes impression management over honesty. It aims to impress, not express. True connection doesn't move that fast. It unfolds gradually through mutual disclosure, trust building, and the courage to be seen as you really are. An authentic person might stumble over their words, admit when they're unsure, or say something that doesn't land perfectly. But here's the key. They're not trying to perform. They're trying to relate. The difference? Charm is transactional. It's about gaining something. Approval, influence, power. Authentic connection is relational. It's about sharing truth and building something real, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's what makes charm so dangerous. It mimics intimacy without offering any of its depth. You think you're growing close, but you're actually being managed. Meanwhile, the charmer remains untouched, always polished, always in control, never vulnerable. In short, charm seeks to please, connection dares to reveal. One earns applause, the other earns trust. Know the difference. Your emotional safety depends on it. To understand why charm can be dangerous, you need to understand the psychology behind it. Charmers aren't just naturally likable people, they're often highly skilled social strategists. Underneath their charisma is a complex mix of traits that make them persuasive, magnetic, and often manipulative. First, charmers are masters of emotional intelligence. They read people quickly, facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and adapt their behavior accordingly. This makes them seem deeply empathetic, but in reality, it's more about control than connection. They instinctively know what you want to hear, and they give it to you. Not necessarily because it's true, but because it's effective. Many charmers also share traits from what psychologists call the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Not all charmers are sociopaths, of course, but many exhibit shades of these characteristics. Narcissism drives their need to be admired. Machiavellianism fuels their strategic social maneuvering, and psychopathy gives them a chilling ability to manipulate without guilt. But here's the twist: some charmers don't even know they're doing it. For many, charm was a survival mechanism developed early in life, especially in unstable or emotionally volatile environments. They learned that being likable was the safest way to stay protected or get their needs met. Whether calculated or subconscious, the result is the same. A person who knows how to disarm others quickly, gain trust rapidly, and maintain power without ever appearing threatening. They're not aggressive, they don't need to be. Their greatest weapon is the smile you never saw coming. Charm is often mistaken for sincerity, but in the hands of a manipulator, it's a mask. A beautiful, disarming disguise designed to keep you comfortable while your boundaries are quietly being dismantled. Unlike open aggression, which triggers alarm, charm puts your guard down. That's what makes it so effective and so dangerous. Manipulators use charm not to connect, but to gain access to your trust, your time, your influence, or your resources. The compliments feel authentic, the attentiveness seems personal, the instant chemistry feels magical, but all of it is engineered. Charm becomes the soft music playing while your instincts are being muted. One of the key tactics behind this manipulation is mirroring. The charmer reflects your values, mimics your language, and adopts your emotional tempo. You think, "Wow, we're so alike," when in reality, you're looking at a reflection of yourself, carefully crafted to make you feel safe. The goal isn't intimacy, it's leverage. By appearing agreeable, kind, and emotionally tuned in, the charmer builds unearned trust. Once you've handed them the benefit of the doubt, they begin to push limits, subtly, slowly. You justify red flags because they're such a good person. And when things go wrong, you doubt yourself, not them. Because charm doesn't just manipulate behavior, it manipulates perception. It rewrites the story in real time, casting the charmer as innocent and you as overreactive. That's the real function of charm in manipulation. It creates an emotional fog, and by the time you see clearly, it's often already too late. In romantic relationships, charm doesn't just open the door, it kicks it off the hinges. When someone intensely charming enters your life, it can feel like fate. They know exactly what to say, how to touch you, how to make you feel seen and adored. The emotional intimacy moves fast, too fast. What feels like a soul connection is often just expert emotional choreography. This is how love bombing begins. Grand gestures, constant compliments, long late-night talks about dreams and pain. The charmer makes you feel like the only person in the world. But this intensity isn't love. It's possession in disguise. The faster you bond, the easier you are to control. And then, once they've secured your trust, the mask begins to slip. The constant texts turn into silence. The sweetness becomes sarcasm. Your boundaries get tested, but because you're emotionally invested, you justify it. You cling to the memory of who they seem to be, not who they are now. What makes it dangerous is the contrast. The person who once made you feel euphoric now leaves you anxious, confused, even afraid to speak up. You start to doubt your reality. You try harder to get back to that initial version of them, not realizing it was never real to begin with. Charm weaponized in relationships creates psychological dependency. It pulls you in fast, gets under your skin, and turns affection into control. It's not about connection. It's about dominance, disguised as desire. And by the time you realize it, you're already emotionally trapped. Charm in the workplace or social circles isn't just about likability. It's often a power play in disguise. The charming colleague who seems effortlessly magnetic, who always knows the right thing to say, who just gets along with everyone, that person might not be the team player they appear to be. In professional environments, charm becomes a shield, one that protects the manipulator from accountability. Because they're so well liked, their mistakes are excused, their missteps overlooked, and their motives rarely questioned. They know how to build alliances, impress superiors, and navigate politics with precision, all while quietly undermining others behind the scenes. They'll offer praise to your face, then take credit for your work in the next meeting. They'll seem supportive in public, but plant seeds of doubt in private. Their power comes from perception. Everyone believes they're harmless, so no one sees the quiet damage they cause. Socially, it's the same story. They charm their way into circles of influence, play mediator or confidant, and subtly control group dynamics through persuasion and flattery. But at their core, they're not connecting, they're manipulating. Because when charm is used as a weapon, it doesn't just win people over. It protects the charmer while silencing everyone else. One of the most powerful tools in a charmer's arsenal is ambiguity, the art of saying just enough to make you feel special, but never enough to pin them down. It's intentional. The charm isn't in the clarity, it's in the confusion. They're masters of the almost compliment, the half-promise, the emotionally charged sentence that trails off just before it reveals anything real. You're different from everyone else, they say, but never explain why. I feel like we have something rare, but when you press for what that means, they pivot or deflect. This vagueness creates a vacuum your mind rushes to fill. You project meaning, assume connection, and convince yourself there's more than what's actually there. Ambiguity also gives them plausible deniability. If things go wrong, they can say, "I never said that," or "You misunderstood me." You're left feeling foolish or overly sensitive while they remain blameless. It's a manipulation tactic that keeps them emotionally slippery, always admired, never accountable. This calculated vagueness ensures they maintain control. You chase clarity while they remain untouchable. And the more uncertain you feel, the more power they hold. Because a truly dangerous charmer doesn't need to lie outright, they just let you do the imagining. Falling for charm feels good. At first, you feel chosen, understood, even admired. It's intoxicating, like stepping into a dream. But when the charm begins to wear thin, what's left behind can be deeply damaging and confusing. The first cost is your intuition. When you fall for someone who seems perfect, you learn to override the small red flags. You ignore the hesitation in your gut, the inconsistencies in their stories, the way their words and actions don't always align. You tell yourself you're just being paranoid. Over time, you stop trusting your instincts entirely. The second cost is your identity. Charmers often use intense praise and flattery to shape how you see yourself, then gradually twist it. One day you're their favorite person, the next you're too sensitive, too needy, or not as fun as you used to be. You begin to mold yourself to stay in their good graces, slowly losing touch with who you were before they arrived. Then comes emotional confusion. You cycle through highs and lows, euphoria, followed by withdrawal. You start second-guessing everything. Were they ever real? Did I imagine the connection? Was it all my fault? The most painful cost? Self-blame. Because charm feels so good at the beginning, when things go wrong, you assume you're the problem. You protect their image instead of your own well-being. Falling for charm isn't a harmless mistake, it's a psychological trap. And by the time you realize it, you've often paid for the illusion with pieces of your self-worth. Charm is easy to digest. It flatters your ego, calms your insecurities, and gives you a sense of connection without ever making you feel uncomfortable. Honesty, on the other hand, is unpredictable. It might hurt. It might challenge your worldview. It might reveal something about you, or them, that you'd rather not see. That's why, on a subconscious level, most people prefer charm. It feels safer. We don't just fall for charm because the other person is smooth. We fall for it because we want to. We want to believe the flattering words. We want the validation without the vulnerability. Charm keeps things pleasant, surface level, controlled. Honesty asks us to risk something, to be exposed, to feel discomfort, to face truths we might not be ready for. And let's be honest, many of us would rather be lied to gently than told a painful truth directly. That's what makes charm so powerful. It feeds our desire to feel good without requiring anything real in return. But here's the danger. What feels safe isn't always true, and what feels good isn't always right. The comfort of charm often hides the cost of disconnection. Real relationships can't be built on performance. They require the courage to tell the truth. Charmers don't walk in waving red flags. They glide in wrapped in gold. That's what makes them so dangerous. But if you know what to look for, you can spot the signs before you get pulled too deep. 1. They connect too fast. If someone makes you feel like soulmates within hours or days, slow down. Real connection takes time. Charmers rush intimacy because it short-circuits your boundaries. 2. Everyone loves them, but no one knows them. They're the life of the party, admired by many, yet strangely elusive. Ask around. How many people actually have a deep, vulnerable relationship with this person? Likely very few. 3. They avoid vulnerability. They're great at asking about you but vague when it comes to themselves. Their stories are smooth, curated, even inspiring, but never raw, never messy, never real. 4. You feel amazing, then subtly confused. Charmers are emotional magicians. They lift you up, but something always feels slightly off. You might feel guilty for asking questions or find yourself justifying their contradictions. 5. They use flattery like a tool. Compliments aren't occasional, they're constant, overly personalized, almost too perfect. This isn't affection, it's strategic disarmament. 6. Boundaries make them uncomfortable. The moment you assert a need, say no, or express discomfort, their tone shifts. They'll play the victim, guilt you, or withdraw affection, because control is slipping. Charm is powerful, but not foolproof. Once you learn to look beyond the glow and ask the right questions, you'll see the difference between real connection and rehearsed illusion. The only real antidote to charm is discernment, the willingness to choose substance over style, even when the style feels irresistible. Charm appeals to your emotions, your ego, your desire to feel wanted. But once you recognize that pull, you can pause and ask a better question. Is this person real, or just really good at reading me? To build immunity to charm, you have to slow things down. Don't confuse fast chemistry with genuine connection. Pay attention not to how someone makes you feel in the moment, but how they behave consistently over time. Do their words match their actions? Do they respect your boundaries without pushback or guilt? Do they show up when there's nothing in it for them? Substance shows in the quiet moments when there's nothing to prove. Real people aren't always polished. They fumble. They admit when they're wrong. They let themselves be seen without the perfect script. That's what creates trust. The goal isn't to become cynical. It's to become clear. When you value depth over dazzle, you'll stop being impressed by empty charm. And instead of being pulled into someone's performance, you'll stay grounded in your truth, choosing people who connect, not just captivate. Here's the uncomfortable part no one likes to admit: the manipulative charm you've been warned about. You probably use a version of it too, maybe not to deceive or control others maliciously, but to stay safe, liked, accepted. Think about it. Have you ever exaggerated a story to sound more interesting? Laughed at something you didn't find funny to keep things smooth? Complimented someone to avoid conflict or win favor? That's charm in action, a form of self-protection disguised as connection. Most of us were taught early on to be agreeable, to read the room, to make others feel comfortable, even when we're uncomfortable ourselves. So we develop a polished version of ourselves, a social performance that wins approval and avoids rejection, and it works until it doesn't. The danger isn't in having charm, it's in relying on it instead of truth. When charm becomes a shield, we lose the ability to be real. We give people a version of ourselves that's pleasing but empty, and wonder why we still feel misunderstood. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because once you recognize your own charm reflex, you can choose something more powerful. Honesty, depth, and connection that doesn't require a mask. Charm may open doors, but it rarely builds anything that lasts. It's safe, polished, and instantly rewarding, but ultimately shallow. The real transformation happens when you stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. Not with a performance, but with the truth. It takes courage to show up without the smooth edges, to say what you really feel, even if it makes things awkward, to let people see the parts of you that aren't always composed, agreeable, or magnetic. But that's where real relationships begin, not in perfection, but in presence. Trading charm for courage means you stop asking, "How do I get them to like me?" and start asking, "Can I be fully myself and still be loved?" And when you risk that kind of honesty, something surprising happens. The people who matter most don't walk away, they lean in. Charm keeps you liked, courage makes you known. So, here's the final challenge. Next time you're tempted to perform, pause. Breathe. Tell the truth instead. It might not get a standing ovation, but it might give you something better, a real connection, built not on how well you played the part, but on the strength of who you chose to be without it. If this episode made you pause and rethink the power of charm, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need the same wake-up call. And remember, real connection begins where the performance ends.